There's a book publisher called Brave Books, okay? And they produce books that are titled things like Little Lives Matter, Hands Off My Coconut Cannon, or something like that. It's right-wing conservative Christian evangelical extremist propaganda for children. That's what it is. I've been going through a series where I'm reading a bunch of these books for children. The company was originally created by Kirk Cameron, Brave Books, or Brave Publishing, or whatever. I wanted to read one today, but before we read it, let me give a little introduction to explain why they're doing this and what it's all about. Check this clip out. This is Gene Bailey on the left. This is a TV show called Flashpoint, owned and operated by Kenneth Copeland. Gene Bailey is the host. And this was said on the Valentine's Day episode 2023. Listen to this.
You know, when we look back on Hitler, Hitler went for the youth. The enemy always goes for the youth. We must take up arms and go for our youth, arms of the truth and of godly principles. But
that's why Brave Books has been producing books the way they have at an astonishing rate. And Donald Trump even shouted them out recently. So let's read some of these books that they made for children, some of these propagandistic, ridiculous books. See what they have to say. This book is called The Island of Free Ice Cream, and apparently it's all about how evil socialism is. So let's give this a read and see what it has to say. Home of the Brave. Welcome to Freedom Island, home of the brave, where good battles evil and truth prevails. It's up to you to defend our great nation. Help the animals of Rushington save their city by completing the Brave Challenge at the end of this book. Dude, I have books written by the woman who runs Libs of TikTok, Sean Spicer. I have books written by, who else? Dinesh D'Souza, a bunch of, Steven Crowder is another, a ton of people. They're in the mail on their way to me right now. I cannot wait to get my hands on those and read that crazy stuff. This one, I don't think, this is by Jack Posobiec. I don't know who that is. I don't know that he's really that famous in right-wing circles. American alt-right political activist, television correspondent, and presenter, conspiracy theorist, and provocateur. I've never heard of the guy before. He's 38, apparently. Well, let's see what's in the mind of Jack Posobiec. Rushington was the happiest city in all of Whiggamore Woods. Yeah, they have standard cookie-cutter locations and characters in this book series. Whiggamore Woods is where all these characters live. It hopped and popped, whizzed and whirled, buzzing and bursting with all kinds of creatures. The busiest spot of all was Rushington Market. By the way, this book is supposed to be about socialism and how evil it is, so expect capitalist propaganda to be all over this thing. For the record, I'm not, like, the biggest fan of socialism. I am a capitalist. I'll explain that as we go on a little bit further, but propagandizing, let alone to children, is wrong. I don't care what it's about. You could buy anything at the market. Cookies, goodies, and gadgets galore. The animals of Rushington loved to buy and sell all sorts of things, but no one sold more than Asher the fox. Asher invented cranes for building, tractors for plowing, and special tape for fixing just about anything. His finest invention was the freezer that let cows turn their milk into the most delicious ice cream you've ever tasted. Because Asher's inventions made everyone's lives better, he had the biggest booth in the market. The animals of Rushington couldn't have been happier until a pack of wolves came to town. "You poor little animals," the wolves snarled. "Your market isn't fair. You all work so hard, but Asher has the biggest booth. We come from Utopia Island, which is so amazing that we don't even need a market. Everybody gets the most delicious ice cream you've ever tasted for free. If you put us in charge, we'll make Rushington an even happier place to be." This book isn't rhyming or anything. Some of these books rhyme, and it's actually on point. Like, you can tell which people are just propagandists and which ones are really good at just writing children's books. Free ice cream for everyone. So this is obviously completely absurd. This is not what... It's an anti-socialist book. It's anti-socialist propaganda. This isn't what socialism offers. Matter of fact, this isn't what communism offers either. Again, I'm not a proponent for either of these things, but this is pure unadulterated propaganda. Asher warned them that the wolves' promise sounded too good to be true, but the animals, drooling and dreaming of free ice cream, decided to vote. After Judge Cattenpaw counted the votes, Mayor Bledson declared that the wolves now controlled Rushington. Okay, so free stuff is the idea here. Free stuff is evil. The thing is, the social programs that they're really referring to here, expanding Social Security, healthcare being a right, people being given access to healthcare whether they can pay for it or not. These things are not like ice cream. Ice cream is an elective thing. You can have it or you can't have it, and you won't die either way. You'll be okay. But you know what you will die without? An appendectomy. If your appendix bursts, you will die if you don't get that surgery. That is what the left is calling for. Universal health care. Access to health care that is not limited to how much you can pay. This is something called an inelastic demand. In capitalism, an inelastic demand is something that you will just straight up die if you don't have. An appendectomy is an inelastic demand. And in my opinion, things that are inelastic demands, you will die if you don't have it, they should be either fully controlled or at least heavily regulated by the government. Insurance, for example, should not be something that exists in society, period. No insurance. If there is a profit motive behind people suffering like this, it shouldn't be privatized. It should be run by an objective mediator like the government. We can see how this works in Canada or Scandinavian countries, European countries, all over. We know how this stuff works. We know what it looks like to live in a society where healthcare is a guarantee rather than something you have to pay for. Their death rates are way, way, way lower than in the United States. This isn't free ice cream that we're asking for. I won't die without ice cream. Mayor Bledson declared that the wolves now controlled Rushington. Then the wolves put Asher on a catapult and recited a chant. With a snap and a kick and a powerful swish, you'll fly in the air and land with the fish. Why would they kick Asher out? I mean, they're trying to make it out like anybody who wants universal health care or any number of other social programs is evil. Imagine if we didn't have Social Security. They'd be saying the same shit about Social Security right now, right? And they launched Asher right out of Rushington. Thankfully, Asher brought along his handy-dandy hang glider, H-A-N-G. Oh, this one's sideways. Welcome to Utopia, home of the never hungry. After gliding for 2 days and 2 nights, Asher landed on a strange and distant island. Animals hid in the alleyway shadows, and there wasn't a smile for miles. Soon Asher stumbled upon a long line of animals where a dog named Pepper was very hungry. I'm so hungry I could eat my pants, said Pepper. Asher heard his stomach growl too. The wolves said that everyone in Utopia was full with free ice cream. Yes, agreed Pepper. That's what the Council of Wolves promised. But they take all the ice cream for themselves. Now we can't buy or sell at the market, and all the wolves give us is this mushy, moldy macaroni. Yuck. Why didn't they say that they gave them mushy, moldy bread? Because that's actually what happened in, some communist dictatorships. The problem here really isn't the style of government, like a communist, socialist, whatever. The real problem is authoritarianism. The real problem is corruption, right? Taking everything for themselves. They have all the free ice cream they could want. They are conflating corruption with socialism. You know what socialism really is? Let me tell you what socialism is. A while back, I wanted to start a nonprofit organization. Now, I still have intent to do that. I just haven't gotten around to filing the licenses or anything yet. It's complicated. But I did go through the process of attempting to file a business license. And here's how a nonprofit organization works. When you create the company, you name a board in the founding documents, and you name like bylaws and stuff like that. The board votes on who the president of the organization is and what they're paid and who does what job and everything. It's kind of built into it from the ground up that you have a union where people vote on who gets paid what, and they negotiate with this and that. And it's built right in that the person who started it doesn't own it. The person who started it is just another cog in the machine. You're creating this new entity that will act on its own, basically. That's how it's structured. That's socialism. That's what socialism is, where instead of having a company that is owned by a single person who gets all of the profits, the structure of private companies is actually where the people that work for that company vote on various different things. They vote on who their managers are and how much pay they get and all of it. It's all voted upon. So it's like democratizing the workplace, basically. Now, you can say that's good. You could say that's bad. It's up for debate, I suppose. It's different, right? It's a different style of governance than what we have now. I don't think that it would fail. I think it would be fine. I think we could probably give that a shot. But actually, I'm okay with capitalism as long as it's heavily regulated. I want capitalism regulated out the wazoo. I want social programs like Social Security. I want universal health care. I want heavy regulation to prevent colleges from costing $60,000 a year. That's absurd and unacceptable. I want capitalism with heavy regulations. And I would be okay with expanding private companies to, be set up in such a way where they have a board that votes on everything in certain circumstances. I'd be okay with that. That's socialism. What they're describing here is a communist dictatorship that really has nearly nothing to do with communism or socialism. The source of their problems here, as they say right in this line, they take all the ice cream for themselves. The source of their problem is corruption, not socialism, not communism. Just then a goat began to speak. I can make food for the animals if you open the market and let me sell it. Hurry before we all eat our pants. Yeah, that's really interesting, actually. Usually when, socialist or communist dictatorships pop up, like North Korea, technically a democracy by name, but it's really a socialist dictatorship. North Korea has black markets. Inevitably, black markets spring up. Capitalist markets pop up like this. Capitalism does exist in these countries. It's just underground. A wolf snarled, "A market won't make your tummies full. This goat must be punished for his lies." The wolves recited their chant. With a snap and a kick and a powerful swish, you'll fly in the air and land with the fish. So I guess this is supposed to be the equivalent of like the death penalty or something, right? Boing, and they launched the goat out of utopia. One by one, the wolves slunk away from the crowd. Is that even a word? Slunk? Curious, Asher and Pepper snuck in behind them. That went very well, sneered the top wolf. Now none of the animals will dare speak up. Yeah, they're describing an authoritarian dictatorship. This isn't like, their problem isn't socialism or communism, it's corruption. And this is pure, unadulterated propaganda. It's crazy. Children's propaganda. This is nuts. Slunk is a word, yes. Oh, okay. I had never heard that word. I feel like it's a different tense for slink away. And I wasn't sure if that was the correct pronunciation. Another wolf chuckled. When we finish taking over Rushington and all the rest of Freedom Island, everyone will be terrified of us and our catapults. The council shrieked and cheered, but Asher muttered, "Not if I can stop them," so he and Pepper set to work. Wait, is Pepper a chick? I think Pepper's a chick. Is this a dog? It looks like a rabbit. Asher built a secret submarine that he and Pepper used to escape Utopia and make their way to Tokatoke. Yeah, so in this world, Tokatoke is one of the good islands where guns are available to everybody. And see, I'm not joking. And where trans elephants realize that they're really elephants and not birds. It's just, God, dude, it's just insane. So they escaped to Tokatoke. There, a friendly singing elephant helped them carry a cart of supplies to Rushington. That's what I'm talking about. Elephants are not birds. That video already released on this channel if you want to go back and take a look at it. Just crazy, dude. The wolves had just gathered up so the elephant, the singing elephant, Kevin is his name, helped him carry a cart of supplies to Rushington. The wolves had just gathered up the last of the animals' food when Asher arrived. You took away the market that had everything we needed, and now we're starving, said the animals. When do we get ice cream? This is Kevin, the singing elephant right here, who thought that he was a bird, but then discovered that elephants are elephants and not birds. Yeah, big anti-trans message. Asher leapt into action. Animals of Rushington, the wolves are lying. They've stolen what you made, and they'll keep stealing everything you will make if you let them. I've been to Utopia, and guess what? There will be no free ice cream. They really should have had somebody edit this book because there are like punctuation and spelling marks all through it. We don't want you to be in charge anymore, said the animals. Let's vote. Too late, growled the wolves. If you want your city back, you'll have to fight for it. Bam, wow, zing, pow, wham. And they're all fighting and hitting each other. Apparently, violence is the best answer to this situation. I'm not joking. This is the message they want to deliver. Socialism should be met with violence. At last, Rushington was free. Judge Cattenpaw said the wolves were guilty of lying, and for their punishment, they were all loaded onto Asher's newest invention, a superpowered catapult. A judge said the wolves were guilty of lying. Guilty of lying. Everything in this book is built to give a very specific idea to the reader. Everything in the book is intended to propagandize. Every frame, every picture, every word is here for a reason. The judge said the wolves are guilty of lying, and after being beaten to nearly to death for endorsing socialism, they throw them off of the island, which obviously is a euphemism for the death penalty. The animals of Rushington recited a chant. With a snap and a kick and a powerful swish, you'll fly in the air and land with the fish. Rushington was safe at last, but when Asher received a mysterious letter, he knew this wasn't the end. Together, he and his friends set out to defend Freedom Island from lying wolves and other evil creatures. Dear Asher, what makes someone brave? Bravery is not ignoring danger or pretending it does not exist, but seeing it clearly and running to meet it. This is a similar ending to some of the other books they produced, like the one about hand cannons, how they should be legal everywhere. It ends with a call to action. The child should want to fight socialism and should want to own a gun and spread guns to everybody around them. Like, that's the idea here. This is fucking nuts, dude. This is absolutely unhinged. Your passionate defense of Rushington City has come to our attention, and son, you have our respect. Freedom Island needs defenders like you now more than ever. If you're willing to defend our dear island, answer the call. Journey to Wizard's Way by the first day of fall. Hurry, the world we love is under silent attack. Anticipating your speedy arrival, the legends of Freedom Island. It's not under attack, actually. The world that they know and love is not under attack. As a matter of fact, the United States is moving further and further to the right as time goes on. Not further to the left, further to the right. It's getting absolutely absurd. By the way, what's this thing called? It's called a mangonel, isn't it? Is that what that is? A mangonel was a general term for medieval stone-throwing artillery and used more specifically to refer to manually or traction-powered weapons, sometimes wrongly used to refer to the onager. Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, okay, so this is an onager, I guess. Not a mangonel, but an onager. I think a mangonel was stationary, and an onager has wheels. Something like that. An ancient weapon. Anyway, just crazy, dude. Absolutely unhinged from reality, straight up. So at the end of these books, they always have these little games and stuff. Let's just kind of glance through and see what games they have to drill home the point that they tried to communicate in the book. Introduction. Brave Books has created the Brave Challenge to drive home key lessons and values illustrated in the storybook. Each activity, a game, and the accompanying discussion questions takes between 10 and 20 minutes. Family-focused and collaborative, the Brave Challenge is a quick and fun option for family game night. Objective. Welcome to Team Brave. Your mission for this Brave Challenge is to defend Rushington from the wolves of Utopia by earning more Brave Bucks, or BBs, than the wolves. To get started, get a sheet of paper and pencil and draw a scoreboard labeled Team Brave versus Team Wolves. Winning. In this Brave Challenge, Team Brave will compete against Team Wolves to earn Brave Bucks, or BBs. At the end of all three activities, the team with the most Brave Bucks wins. During each game, the parent will roll a die for the wolves. The number rolled will represent the number of BB the wolves earned in that game. We will write this value on the wolves' half of the scoreboard. Okay, Jack Posobiec is an introduction to him, apparently, the writer. Jack Posobiec is a popular influencer who spent his career bringing awareness to issues close to his heart, including the importance of family, faith, and the American way of life. He helped Brave Books write this story and the Brave Challenge and will be popping in to give you ideas on how you can explain these concepts to your child. Hi, parents. I'm thrilled to be here with you during the Brave Challenge, and I hope to have as much fun playing the games as we did creating them. And I hope you have as much fun playing the games as we did creating them. Game number 1, In the Name of Fairness. Lesson? Communism. The government owns your things, only letting you use what they think you need. That's inaccurate, actually. I mean, I'm not a communist. I don't believe in communism at all. But communism does not outlaw personal property for what it's worth. It outlaws private ownership, like companies. You can't own companies, or you can't own property, for example, to my knowledge. But you can own a toothbrush. That's yours. You can have, a piece of bread. You can have a car or whatever other thing. Those things are personal ownership, personal property. But private ownership of companies and stuff is outlawed. Welcome to Utopia Island. Team Brave, you have come to Utopia Island for the greatest paper airplane contest of all time. You'll be battling against the Council of Wolves to see which team can make paper airplanes go the furthest. Okay, it explains how to fold a paper airplane. Before we continue to discussion, we have a message from the Council of Wolves. We, the Wolves, hereby declare that it is not fair that Team Brave and Team Wolves earned a different number of Brave Bucks. So instead of what you earned, each team will have exactly 10 BB. Yeah, they're doing everything they can to propagandize about communism. It's not my life's goal to defend communism. I'm not communist. But is it not pure unadulterated propaganda here? Can you guys see this too? Is it just me? That is not what communism is about. You remember earlier I explained socialism is where workers control the means of production and supply, where the workers vote on who their managers are and how much people are paid and things like that for the good of the company. They have an investment in the company and want it to succeed. That's socialism. Well, communism is where the state is the owner of that stuff. The state steps in and gives people what they need and pays them for the work that they have and all that other stuff. Now, the only communist countries that have ever existed were also authoritarian extremist countries, who, in my opinion, the leader, Stalin, was just as bad as Hitler. Just as bad. So we don't really know how communism would play out practically. I'm not really a fan of it because corruption will sneak in inevitably. That will happen. There have to be counterbalances to corruption, some kind of counterbalance. Anyway, like I said, I'm capitalist. I'm not here to defend communism. I just want to make sure everybody has a clear understanding of what it actually is and not this warped, distorted view of it. So Team Wolf and Team Brave both have 10 BBs because that's communism, apparently. Go to the scoreboard and scribble over the old scores. Give them each 10 BB. But we're not done yet. Here's another message from the Wolves. Because we, the Wolves, worked so hard to make both scores equal to 10, we think we should get a little extra reward. I'll take 3 points away from Team Brave and give 3 extra points to us. That's corruption. And we see this exact thing playing out in politics in the United States today. Do you know that Congress sets their own salaries? They vote on what their salary should be. They vote on what their health care should be and all this stuff. That is literally exactly what's being described. They are taking from everybody else and giving to themselves. This isn't a communist problem, it's a corruption problem. Go to the scoreboard and scratch out the numbers again. Give Team Brave 7 BB and Team Wolves 13 BB. Gather all the paper airplanes, put them away before continuing so they're not a distraction during the discussion. Okay, here's the talk about it section. Number 1, just now, the Wolves said they wanted to make everything fair, so they gave everyone the same number of Brave Bucks. How did you feel about that? If you knew that you'd always earn the same number of points as the other team, would you ever try to do your best? Why? Yeah, that's interesting. So this is one component to capitalism that I agree with, the motivation, the interest in bettering yourself and getting more and stuff like that. Like, I'm okay with that. I think that's a good thing, that the motivation to improve your situation is good. But there should be a basic level of care, a basic level of stuff that the government is there to guarantee. When you're old and you're incapable of working anymore, you should receive a payment to stay alive, Social Security. If you get sick, who the fuck tied healthcare to work? Who did that? Whose bright idea was that? It was FDR's, I think. That's dumb as dog shit. If you get sick, you can't work and you lose your health care. What were they thinking? This should be a government-run program so that there are no profit motives in inelastic demands. So the motivation aspect, I get that. I'm okay with them pointing that out, but everything else in this is nonsense. And also, that's not how communism works anyways. When the wolves came to Rushington, they said that it wasn't fair that Asher had the biggest booth. Why do you think Asher had a big booth? Hint, the text says why. No, the reason why, actually, is sheer, pure, unadulterated luck. Like, do you think I'm in the situation that I'm in, being a YouTuber, because I worked hard for it? Working hard was a component, but I found myself in a position. I found an opportunity to spread the word, to do something that I love, to edit videos and upload them and everything, and I seized the opportunity when I saw it. I was placed in the specific position that I was placed in by sheer luck, and I did the right thing in the moment. That's all there was to it. It wasn't because I worked harder than any other person out there. I didn't work harder. In fact, there were a ton of other people out there that worked harder than me. You know how I know? Because I was one of those people. I worked at Burger King for years. I worked at IHOP. I worked at Lowe's. I worked at all these places, and I know what it's like to work your nuts off and get nothing back for it. It isn't because Asher worked harder. It was pure luck that led Asher to where he was. Pure luck. And knowing what to do with the opportunity when he got there. This isn't a meritocracy. This isn't like people who work harder rise to the top. That's not how this works. This is not how this has ever worked. In a communist country like Utopia, the people in charge say they make life fair by giving everybody the same reward no matter what they earn. A person who works really hard would have the same house, car, and food as someone who doesn't work at all. Is this fair? What would it be like to live in a country like this? Okay, that's not really a fair... I mean, I guess they're comparing this to the communist dictatorship that was the USSR. And yeah, it was really ugly back then. It was bad. Stalin was evil. There was corruption all through everything. Black markets sprung up and people were buying from them. I mean, it wasn't even fully communist because there were so many black markets all over the place. And the corruption was out of control. But that's not what a modern day interpretation of communism could be. That's not what socialism is. Again, I'm not a communist. I'm not a socialist. I just want to make sure that we're not misrepresenting the situation. Jack suggests the wolves in Utopia were supposed to take all the food and give everyone their fair share of ice cream. See that word there? Their fair share? The reason he uses that term is because it was popularized by Bernie Sanders saying people should pay their fair share. He wants to, this is a perfect example of propaganda. He wants to link certain phrases and words and terms with evil and communism. He wants to demonize them so that when the kid hears that phrase in the future, they think to themselves, wait, I know what this is. This is evil. That's propaganda. Instead, they took the good food for themselves and gave everyone else moldy, mushy macaroni. Talk to your children about the nature of man and how we all need limitations on power. Right, so this is corruption that's the problem, not communism. It's corruption. Oh God, a Bible verse. Here we go. Philippians 2:4. Now, in the game we just played, the wolves said they were going to make the points more fair, but when they did that, what did they do? How do you feel about that? Let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also the interests of others. Philippians 2:4. Interesting Bible verse to quote here, right? It's basically saying you should care about the people around you and want to make things better for them. Why is he quoting this one? Shouldn't he be quoting one of the Bible verses that says you should only care about yourself? Number 6, if the Wolves change the points like this in all the games we played today, who's going to win? Game number 2, Wolf Tank. Lesson? Competition with a capitalist society leads to better products and services. Capitalism. You own your own things, and you have the right to buy or sell what you want. Right. So I actually agree with this. Competition leads to better products and services. Although there is an argument for the idea that people who are unencumbered from the forces of the capitalist market are free to create and invent and do things that they love and think outside the box and not worry about if they're going to make a profit or not, which arguably could create, even more creative stuff, even more interesting things. But that's neither here nor there. Like I said, I am a capitalist. All right, let's keep reading here. Objective, we're back in Rushington, and guess what? You have a booth in Rushington Market. In this game, 6 animals will come to the market and explain their problems. You, as Team Brave, will compete against another seller to invent solutions to the animals' problems. Okay, the instructions, I'm just going to skim them here. You work as a team for 60 seconds to come up with a better solution to a problem. Choose one person from your team to present your solution to me. I'll tell you what the animals think. If the animals like your solution better than the other sellers, they'll pay you 2 to 3 brave bucks. Yeah, this is a weird, confusing game. Here's the end. Jack suggests, encourage your kids to be creative. Rather than awarding BB to the most practical answer, try to reward your kids for outside-the-box solutions. That's what makes a good entrepreneur. Wow, this is painful. A pizza delivery panda is trying to carry a pizza from Rushington to Tokotok, but he doesn't want to carry it in his hands the whole time. A kangaroo wants to sell the panda a fanny pack to stuff the pizza in. What will you sell him? What? Okay, that's an interesting image they just gave. A fanny pack? Why would a kangaroo need a fanny pack? Brand new sentence, never spoken in history. That's funny. Be generous with the points to help Team Brave recover a slight lead after the last game. However, don't give your kids such a big lead that they lose interest. You know what that sounds like to me? That sounds like a participation trophy. These people love giving out participation trophies. Number 2, Asher wants to hang glide over Mount Avalarif. Hang glide, H-A-N-G. I've never heard that term. I thought it was hand glide, but he's afraid it will be too hot. A polar bear wants to sell Asher an ice cube to hold as he flies. What will you sell him? Pepper wants to reach the very top of Sky Tree, but she thinks it will take too long to climb up the trunk like everyone else. A bunny wants to sell her a pogo stick. What will you sell her? See, I guess they're trying to think of better solutions to things. Okay. Farmer Goat is trying to get rid of the huge mountain of moldy, mushy macaroni left in Utopia. A hen wants to sell him a little broom and dustpan. What will you sell him? What did you get from helping these animals? What did they get from you? Jack suggests, in a fair country, we earn more money when we make or do things that help other people. It's a system that benefits everyone. Yeah, except that's not the country we live in. That's not how this operates. That's not how capitalist markets ever operate. It's not a meritocracy. Never was. It doesn't work that way. Okay, I'm looking up hand glider, and apparently it's not hand glider, it's hang glider. Hang glider. I had no idea. My mistake. I thought that was a grammatical or spelling error. I guess it was a me error. Can you think of any problems that you have in your life and the things that your family buys to help you fix them? For example, how did you talk to your grandparents when they're not at your house? Phone is the answer to that. Phone. Okay. People who come up with and sell new ideas to help others are called entrepreneurs. That's not what an entrepreneur is exactly, but okay. If you were an entrepreneur, what problem would you solve and what new idea would you come up with? In Rushington, a fish opens a candy store that only sells candy made from icky, sticky seaweed. A bee opens a candy store that sells honey-flavored candy. Where would you rather shop? Why are options good? Again, options are good. Competition is good, but it needs to be regulated. It needs to prevent monopolies from appearing, because inevitably that's what happens in a capitalist market. Monopolies take hold. It needs regulation. All of it needs regulation. And There shouldn't be a profit motive in suffering. You know, there's something called an artificial monopoly. Have you ever noticed if you're in a rural area or even in a city, you may have noticed there are only one or maybe two internet service providers. Have you ever noticed that? You can only get your internet from like one or two places, and they both suck. You know why? Because they set up what's called an artificial monopoly, where they agree to stay out of each other's areas. In West Virginia, there was Suddenlink. That's it. Suddenlink. That's the only ISP you could go to for internet. Eventually Frontier. No, I think Frontier was there for like since the beginning, but they only had like DSL, which is slow as sin. I can't even believe it still exists. I think Frontier now has like service in the same areas, but again, they artificially hike the prices up. They hike the prices up and work with each other and plan to keep people paying the most because it's an inelastic demand. You can't live without internet. I mean, you can, but in this modern world, how are you going to apply for jobs? How are you going to communicate with your family? Or honestly, how are you going to communicate with your job? What if they need you to come in? You don't have internet. You're not getting emails. You're not getting text messages because you don't have a connection to the outside world. You need internet. You need a computer. You need a phone. These are inelastic demands. You need them in today's world. And these companies like Suddenlink and all of them, they know that you need that stuff. And they know that they can charge anything they want. When people have the power to choose between many options, they force companies to compete to produce the best product at the lowest cost. It seems like it would work that way, right? It seems logical that it would work that way. But really, the way it works is somebody is going to pay a price for the decisions that are made, right? Like if Chase Bank, for example, makes some really bad financial decisions and they, lose a bunch of money. Who is going to suffer? They have to lay a bunch of people off. Who's going to suffer? Is the CEO going to suffer for those bad financial decisions? Is the person who made those decisions going to suffer? Of course not. It's the people on the bottom that are going to suffer. They're going to lose their jobs. Millions of jobs gone if they made a bad decision. What's their incentive to make good decisions that aren't risky? What's their incentive to do low-risk stuff? They have none. Big banks tend to privatize the profits. They take massive risks, and when they pay off, they line their pockets with gold, and they socialize the losses. If they make bad decisions that end badly, they get bailed out by the state. That's how it happened in 2008. That's how it happens constantly. Anytime a bank goes under in the United States, at least in recent years, they get bailed out. But people are paying the price for that on the bottom. Problem is, the guy that made the decision isn't paying the price for it. It's everybody else. And he doesn't give a shit about them. He gives a shit about him. So capitalism, on paper, works fantastically well. But you have to insert regulations to prevent it from being taken advantage of. Because it inevitably will be. Yeah, on paper, people will pay a price for making bad decisions. That's true. Except it doesn't work that way. Somebody will pay a price for that. It may not be the person that made that bad decision. And then why do they give a shit? They don't. Okay, here's game number 3. The lesson is capitalism incentivizes people to create value for others. Objective: I am a grumpy wolf who's come to Rushington for a spa day. You are workers at the spa. You're workers at the spa I'm visiting, and your goal is to make me happy so that you can earn a good tip. Don't think that this game is just for moms. Dads can give their kids the chance to giggle by accepting the spa treatment too. Okay. Instructions: all the team members will work together to accomplish the tasks on the list below. I'm going to be grumpy the whole time. You'll have to work very hard to make me happy by doing exactly what I ask. For each task, I'll give you either 0, 1, or 2 Brave Bucks, or BBs. Why don't they just call them Brave Bucks? Why the abbreviation? Depending on how well you serve me. Learn from the mistakes of other team members to earn more BB. Before starting, roll the die to see how many BB Team Wolves earned for their tips. Choose one task below for the first brave team member and start testing their customer service. Back massage, brush my hair, rub my feet, head massage. A head massage. Do people do that? I've never had a massage before in my life. Fan me to keep me cool, braid or tie up my hair, get me a robe or walk on my back. Okay. Jack suggests be assertive. Don't be afraid to push your kids' patience and even take back part of the brave bucks if the service is poor. This game should teach them how much customer satisfaction affects the success of a business in a free market country. Make sure to keep it competitive between Team Brave and Team Wolves so they don't get discouraged. After each child has tried, add their scores together. Write that number on the scoreboard for Team Brave. Talk about it. Here's the talk about it section. When you go to a spa, restaurant, or movie, how do you want the workers to treat you? Was it easy to please me, the nasty wolf in the spa? Why did you try anyways? So this is reinforcing the worker's mindset that the customer is always right. You know, sometimes the customer is wrong on occasion. And I don't feel like this is really a healthy mindset for people to be in. You know, people should stand up for their workers and stand behind them and not allow them to be taken advantage of or whatever. But okay. Imagine the government said every worker at the spa will get 2 BB no matter how they treat customers. If you were working for a grumpy customer when this happened, would you work hard to make them happy? So is he advocating for the existence of tipping? I mean, it works perfectly fine in other countries. You know, Europe, they don't tip at all, do they? Or not very often. Isn't it an insult in some European countries to tip? And bizarrely, you'd never guess these restaurants in Europe succeed anyways. Almost like this logic is flawed from the ground up. Weird, huh? Whoever is slack in his work is a brother to him who destroys. Proverbs 18:9. Wow, dude. Wait, is this the same translation, ESV? It is, okay. They're using the same translation throughout, the ESV. I find it really interesting how evangelicals love to switch translations randomly and without warning. They'll go to like the AMP version or the ESV or the King James or whatever. Just randomly, just flip to another translation in the middle of everything. Why? Because that translation supports what they wanted to communicate. The other didn't, so. How did the wolves treat the animals in Utopia? How did the animals treat each other in Rushington? Would you like to live in Rushington or Utopia? Tally all the points to see who won. In closing, today we discussed how Asher had to deal with the wolves from Utopia and save Rushington. What Asher was really dealing with was communism in Utopia versus capitalism in Rushington. No, it was authoritarianism, actually. Authoritarianism versus capitalism. And in that contest, capitalism wins every time. Honestly, capitalism wins against communism every time, in my opinion also. But propagandizing like this is simply absurd, dude. Simply absurd. Communism, the government owns your things, only letting you use what they think you need. No, there is personal property in communism. Communism is where the state controls the means of production and supply, i.e., they own the company and make decisions for it. Capitalism, you own your own things and you have the right to buy or sell what you want. Okay, I guess that's a rough definition. In our games, we discussed how communism isn't fair, how competition leads to better products and services, and how capitalism makes people want to create value for others. Okay, I suppose so. Make sure to check out the previous books in the saga. Wow. Little Lives Matter, Elephants Are Not Birds. I actually have read both of those, so check my website, owenmorgan.com, for the other books if you haven't heard those. You can also check, I think they're both on my Telltale Reads YouTube channel. Just absolutely unhinged stuff, dude. Unhinged stuff. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. This is bizarre to me. You know, in my opinion, tipping shouldn't exist. I think tipping is absurd. Employers should pay their employees what they're worth. It shouldn't be passed off onto the customer. But for what it's worth, when I tip obscenely well in New York City, always. I tip 25% usually to everybody. The taxi driver, the Uber, the Grubhub guys, every single person I interact with gets 25% off the top. I just noticed the main character's name is Asher. That's a Jewish name, so now there's an extra layer of bigotry. Oh, that's interesting. Asher the Fox is Jewish. It's weird how they kind of play into these tropes constantly, right? It's like way, way too on the nose. Christian nationalists, the people that write this book and others, pretend to like Jews. They don't. They like Israel because they need Israel to exist before the rapture can happen or whatever. They are Christian Zionists is what they're called. They don't like Jewish people. They want them all to die in a fire. What they like is that Israel exists. And then they spread anti-Semitism. Now, this is a mild version, just a little thing that you may not even notice. But all these little things add up to something big. And if you're Jewish, you notice all these little things. You're probably not Jewish if you're reading this. The children reading this are probably going to be Christians, right? They'll all be Christians. That means they won't pick up on this type of thing. But the Jewish children will. I mean, you don't realize what it's like to be persecuted until you're persecuted.